It just seems like maybe it's a good thing to have right now for the Marlins, where all these guys are producing, but it just seems like maybe for you, Eli, who's the man that's going down? Do you put down Stowers? You can't. He's also playing really well also.
Well, we should spend a little bit of time on Stowers just because of how low the public opinion was of him just a week ago. He just
real low.
Really unproductive during spring training overall. All he did was draw walks, and so far this spring, this regular season, he's drawn some walks, but he's also actually made some solid contact, and of course in a really critical spot to get that walk off. And he also made a good catch himself. It wasn't a home run robbery, but it was also a really important one in a tie game on a ball that was right at him, and he had to go back on. So at this point, it's really a dead heat between him and Conine. But there's like several machinations that could come up here. Like if both of them are playing well these next couple of weeks, then you got to look at Jonah Bride and Eric Wagman and the choice between them. As good as Bride was last year, I don't think there's anybody that fully bought in on him suddenly breaking out as a middle of the order bat. He's off to a really slow start. And with Wagman, it's kind of the same deal where they technically can play a couple different spots, but they don't add much defensive value. So, and they both hit from the same side. So it could be a little bit redundant, especially if they keep Matt Mervis in there. And then even Matt Mervis, like you can really point to all these guys that have such short track records. Things can flip really quickly. I mean, with Mervis, he hit a couple monster homers in spring training, but he struck out a ton. He had more swing and miss issues than anybody else, including Stowers in spring. Now he's off to a relatively slow start. So there are so many guys that have minor league options and could be sent down if they don't optimally fit with this roster. Javier Sanoja at least has the versatility to play both the outfield and the infield, and that's going to be important. If he's not going to be up, then they want to have somebody like him that is a utility guy to handle it right here. Talking through all the names, I actually wonder most about Mervis, because Mervis is the one that only plays one spot. He only plays first base, and there's serious to this point, he hasn't had many opportunities just because they're sitting him against lefties, including tonight. This might be the third straight night that he's sitting just because he's at the platoon disadvantage. Mervis is the one that I think is under the microscope most, even though he's not directly an outfielder. He's one that could be very, disposable if there's not some signs that he can be a more well-rounded hitter.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you do with this first base position? Because throughout this entire series, it feels like maybe that first base position has been the number one in terms of lacking the way that maybe compared to the other positions of the field, especially the outfield and how well all the outfield were playing this series. Eli, just with this first base position, is this something you're more worried as the season progresses? I'm still looking at the comments. Oh, Troy Johnston, bring him up. Do you bring up Davidson De Los Santos? How do you make shift of this this first base position? Because it seems like it's the most difficult one right now to really see how it goes. So you have Eric Wagman, who hasn't been playing well at all. You mentioned Jonah Bride and his struggles. Matt Mervis, only one position he's going to play at all. It just, this first base position just seems like it's the biggest mess so far this season.
Yeah, they had a couple options at this time a year ago with Bell and Berger kind of splitting time there, and now at this point where they do have a lot of options, but not one that you feel good about. Even De Los Santos, he's off to such a slow start in the minors. I think Brian's right on this. Like he's in the small sample, it looks like he actually is more disciplined, but there's still a lot of swing and miss concerns. He hits the ball hard, he just doesn't hit it enough, and he's so young. He's 21 years old that I don't think he's going to be on the radar until we get to June, even if things are going well. So this is the time to work through the gazillion different options. This is the time to work through Bride and Wagman and Mervis, and like one at a time. They might have to narrow it down. Like I said, potentially as soon as when Sanchez gets back. Especially when Sanchez and Norby get back, and they're kind of on similar timelines, it seems. Like when those guys get back, I think one of those first base guys gets squeezed off in a corresponding move. It's wide open. At the same time, that's a position that you don't really need a long-term first baseman. There's some teams that have him. There's some teams that have a Matt Olson or a Freddie Freeman. There's not a lot of them. That's a spot where you could go into free agency. You could pick up a veteran on a 1-year deal that has been there and done it before, but is still relatively affordable. So yeah, I don't think they're that worried about it. The bigger concern is figuring out the up the middle positions. Things are looking pretty good with Edwards, pretty good with Otto, and pretty good. And center field is still a pretty big question right now. So yeah, I think first base is kind of back of their mind. They're not going to be overly they've the time to like cycle through these guys and see if anything sticks before having to look to the minors for another option.